What's up, guys? It's me, Grey Wolf, back to do another video for you. This video is a review video of my Team EDS tools. And I'm going to go ahead and cut to the overhead view here so you guys can see my collection of EDS tools that I have so far. I do have a fair number of EDS tools, and I definitely have plans to buy more EDS tools in the future. I actually have a list of several more EDS tools that I want. It's just a matter of finding the money to buy them. I'm just gonna start out by saying that Team EDS tools kick ass. I have never everything that I have bought Team EDS is 100% top-notch quality. I've had most of these tools for a while now, and I've used them all quite a bit. The newest addition that I've just added to my collection is the 17 millimeter Hex Wrench. I haven't used this a ton, but I have used it. You know, a fair amount, and as you can see, there is. The anodizing has been scratched off of the interior of the hexes a little bit on this one, but by no means is the tool degrading itself. The edges in there are still nice and sharp. They have not been dulled out, and that's saying something because I have a tendency to use way too much. I have a tendency to overuse blue thread locker on my wheel nuts, so when I go to take them back off, they are very hard to get off, and I mean very hard to get off. So even though I haven't used it a ton, the amount that I have used it, it's definitely been strained. Most of the Team EDS tools, if they have room on them, you can get them engraved for an additional $2. I love getting them engraved. I know it does add to the cost of the tools, and it's really not necessary. But I don't know. There's just something about having personalized quality tools that is just really kick-ass to me. And even the tools even look kick-ass. I mean, how cool does this thing look? It's, you know, like the red anodized, but yet it's like, you know, it's got the silver trim all the way around it and everything. I don't know. To me, this is it's just cool. I didn't even need a 17 millimeter wrench. I've got tons of like stock ones from my Lozy kits and my associated kits and whatnot, but it just looked so cool. I wanted it. So, at any rate, most of these tools, well, all the wrenches I've been using heavily for the last, I don't even know how long I've had them now, at least 8 months or probably more. The Team EDS body reamer is an amazing tool also. Now, I've done an unboxing video on this, so you guys may have seen this already, but just in case you haven't, this one I actually did not get engraved. The only reason I did not get it engraved, and I wish I had it engraved, it looks so out of place next to all my other tools that are engraved, but the only reason I didn't buy this one, or get this one engraved, was because I actually bought it off of eBay, and it was new in the package, but apparently, I'm guessing somebody bought it and decided that they didn't need it or didn't want it for whatever reason, and they ended up reselling it on eBay, still brand new in the package, for $22. Now normally I want to say this retails for $30 or $35 on their website. So unfortunately, by saving the extra cash by buying it off of eBay, I wasn't able to get it engraved, and that kind of sucks. But one of the cool things that I really like about this reamer is that it actually has, I can't see, there we go. It actually has, let's see if I can get it in focus here. It actually has the millimeters marked out on the blade, which is a very nice feature that only just a handful of body reamers out there even have. And not only does it have the marks on it, but it actually goes all the way up to 17 millimeters, or actually 18, I think, if you went all the way up to the silver rim there. I think you can actually get it all the way up to an 18 millimeter hole, which should be plenty big enough for anybody. I mean, it's a pretty big body reamer. I want to say the standard body reamers only go up to about 12 or 14 millimeters typically. So this one is quite a bit bigger than, you know, a fair amount bigger than your standard body reamer. This right here is it's a header spring tool for nitro engines. Nitro engines, if you're not familiar with nitro engines, there's a spring that basically wraps around the engine that keeps the header attached to the engine, and it's very difficult to pull that spring around without one of these tools. You can do it with, you know, like needle nose pliers or whatever, but this tool is designed to basically you hook the spring on one side and then you grab the hook of the spring on the other side, and you can use this tool to pull it all the way around and attach it to the other side, and it makes it a whole lot easier to do. And generally when you're trying to do it with needle nose pliers, half the time it slips out of the needle nose pliers and goes flinging across the room, or the spring, God forbid, it actually you lose control of it and it actually hooks into your finger. I've done that before. That sucks. So if you do nitros, this is a must-have tool. And I've actually used this thing for all kinds of stuff other than what it was designed for. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten in there trying to put like a con rod. The last time I used this thing, I was trying to put a con rod back on onto the crankshaft in a nitro engine, and it got stuck. Like it went on crooked, and then it went on about halfway, but since it was crooked, then it got stuck, and I could not for the life of me get it out of there. And I didn't want to, you know, I tried taking some needle nose, and you know, but I didn't want to tear up the con rod or whatever, and I just could not get it unstuck for the life of me. Well, then it finally dawned on me. I grabbed this tool and I actually hooked the hook around the back of the con rod, and was very easily able just to pull it right out of there. So, and I've found various other unconventional uses for that tool as well. And I've actually put a lot of strain on this, and if you can see how fine the end of this hook is, granted this is rolled spring steel. All of Team EDS's tips, including the tip for this tool, is all made of rolled spring steel, so it's very, very tough. I have put a lot of stress on this hook from trying to pry things out of places and stuff like that, and I have never bent that hook at all. That's the stock shape that it comes in. So very impressed with how that's held up. I'm going to switch back to the overhead view here. The wrenches themselves are very nice. I have both their metric set, which is identified by the silver tops up here, and their standard set, which is identified by the red anodized tops. I have both their metric and their standard set. Again, all of their tips are made out of rolled spring steel, and the tips themselves, I'll just grab one to show you guys here. The tips themselves, it's a black crap on my finger. The tips themselves, as you can see right here, these are not die cast. These tips are rolled spring steel, and the tips are ground, precision ground, and it makes for a very sharp, very solid you know, grip when you stick it in that that screw. There's virtually no play. If your screw is new, there's no play whatsoever. I mean, they're literally precision fit in there, which keeps rounding. You know, it keeps your screws from rounding off, and it just makes for longer life on the tips, longer life on your screws, the whole 9 yards. The only thing that I've ever seen mess up on a tip is this one right here. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this on camera or not. Yeah, it's not really showing up very well. This tip right here is actually kind of messed up a little bit. If you can see it. I don't know if you can even see it on camera or not. This is a very small tip. It's the 1.5 millimeter, which is, you know, as you guys know, 1.5 millimeter and the 0.05 inch wrenches are so small that they're hard not to mess up. But at any rate, I don't know if you guys can make that out or not, but just the very tips of this wrench tip, there's just the edges are slightly messed up on this tip, and I actually already ordered a replacement tip for it, but it's not messed up to the point where I feel like I need to switch it out yet, though. But since it did get kind of screwed up, I went ahead and ordered a replacement for it. But the only reason that this one got messed up was because I basically used it to unscrew the 3 screws that hold on the back of a Castle brushless motor. Now, as you guys know, the backs of brushless motors, the screws are usually epoxied in place, and they're very, very, very difficult to break loose, especially considering the fact that you usually have to use a 1.5 millimeter hex driver to break them loose, and the 1.5 millimeter is so small. It's just, you know, I've done that very same thing using other wrenches. In particular, I know I've done it with a set of OFNA wrenches, and I know I've done it with a set of, what was that other set? I want to say it was dynamite wrenches, just the basic rubber handled dynamite wrenches. I broke both tips. In fact, the OFNA one, I broke 2 tips in a row before I got all 3 screws out. It was terrible. The other awesome thing about Team EDS wrenches is, well, let me put this in perspective for you. The OFNA wrenches that I had, and I know a couple other companies that have like die cast wrenches like the OFNA wrenches were. I want to say Lozi, in fact it was Lozi in particular. In fact, I take that back. It was not OFNA that I broke 2 of. It was the Lozi. It was the tips off the Lozi 8-in-1 tool, the 1.5 millimeter tip from the Lozi 8-in-1 tool. I broke 2 of those trying to get 3 brushless motor screws out of the back. The OFNA tip I broke once doing a brushless motor, and I think I broke one doing a pinion, a very small, like 48 pitch pinion set screw also. But let me put it in perspective for you. The Lozi set, the OFNA set, and the Dynamite, well, the Dynamite basic rubber handled ones are actually cheaper, but the Dynamite aluminum handled ones are not. All 3 of those sets are at least as much as the Team EDS sets, only all 3 of those are die cast, and I can tell you from personal experience, because I've owned all 3 sets of them, they're not as strong as the spring-steeled Team EDS tips. The spring-steeled tips with the ground ends it's the same exact type of materials and techniques used to make the Team Huddy wrenches, which most people know, or most people will tell you that Team Huddy is pretty much the best of the best. Now, I've never owned a Team Huddy tool, so I can't make a direct comparison between Team EDS and Huddy. But if Team EDS does indeed use, and I've even read online that the Team EDS tips are actually produced by the same exact company that makes the Team Huddy tips. I don't know if that's true or not, but I did read that in one place online. But I read several places online that basically say they use the exact same process to make the tips. The company may be different, I don't know, but the process is, most people that have experience with both these wrenches will tell you that they're basically the same tips. The cool thing is, though, Team EDS it's basically $10 a wrench. If you need the whole wrench, the handle and the tip, it's basically $10 a wrench, $40 for a set. The Team Huddy, so in other words, for my metric and my standard set, it was about $80 plus shipping, which I don't know, it was $5 or $6, $7, something like that. The Team EDS tools, the cheapest I could find, the Team EDS 8-piece tool set before shipping, I want to say it was $128, or was it $123, something like that. It was substantially more expensive than the Team EDS, and I have a feeling that they're not any better quality. I have a feeling Team EDS is essentially the same quality as Team Huddy. That being said, to go on even further, so basically what I'm trying to get across to you is the value of these wrenches. Pretty much any other wrench set that you buy, other than really cheap ones like the little cheapy rubber handled dynamite set, which actually is not a bad set for the money, don't get me wrong, but most of your other sets are going to cost at least $10 a wrench, if not more. And if they're die cast, they are not going to match the quality of the Team EDS tools. The only tool that I know that does match the quality is Team Huddy, which as I just said, is substantially more expensive. Now, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and go on and further give you another point about Team EDS tools that makes them even more of a value, is replacement tips. Now, the crappy replacement tips, I'll just use the OFNA ones for example, because the OFNA ones were the last ones I owned before this, and I remember how much they cost. I want to say the average OFNA tip was about $7 to $8 to replace, and I want to say the tips for my Lozi 8-in-1 tool that I used to have, I want to say those were, I want to say in the $8 to $10 range to replace. The tips for the actual Team EDS wrenches are, I want to say, $4. I can't remember if they're $3.95 or $4.95 to replace. I want to say they're $3.95. I want to say they're only $4 for the actual tip, which is the only part you're ever going to replace. The handle should really never need replaced. So if you do happen to break a tip, they're cheap to replace, man. I mean, which is astounding considering the fact that they're like the best quality wrenches that I've seen out there. So anyway, enough about those. I also own a set of metric wrenches that have the 1/4-inch shanks on them for basically this tool right here. This is my Ryobi 4-Tech. I have arthritis and my thumb's really bad, and actual wrenching, I can't do a lot of wrenching, so I'm forced to use my Ryobi 4-Tech. If you want to go this route, the 4-Tech is a great tool to use, but I'll just give you a little heads up. You don't want to screw your screws all the way in using one of these tools. Even though I've got the clutch set to the lowest setting, you will occasionally strip stuff out if you use this. So what I do is I screw in the screw about 90 or 95% of the way with this, and then I finish it off with the hex wrench typically, unless I'm going into metal. If I'm screwing a screw into metal, then you don't have to worry about stripping that out, and you can go all the way in with that tool. So I did buy the 4-piece metric set for my cordless screwdriver, and then the standard set actually is 4 pieces also, but they actually only have 3. They actually only have 3 of the hex heads. They actually do not give you a 0.05 inch tip, and I'm assuming that's because the tip is too small to use in a power tool. You would most likely break it if you did. So they compensate by giving you a, I want to say that's a number 1 Phillips. Yeah, I think it's a number 1 Phillips there. In fact, it probably says on here. Well, it says 4 millimeter on the shank, but at any rate, I want to say it's a number 1 Phillips there. All of these tips right here for my screwdriver, or for my cordless screwdriver, like I said, I used to use a Lowe's 8-in-1 tool for the tips to use in the screwdriver. Those held up good for about a year, and then they started rounding off really bad on the ones that I used a lot, like 2 and 2.5 millimeter. These I've had maybe, I don't know. I haven't had these a real long time, maybe 4 months or so, 3 or 4 months maybe. So I haven't had these long enough to make a I can't make a blanket statement about these, but what I can do is I can speculate, and the speculation, considering these are the same, these tips are made with the same technology that the other ones, or the same materials that the other ones are, the rolled spring steel with the ground edges. I have no doubt that these will last a very, very, very long time, much, much longer than the Lowe's 8-in-1 die-cast tips did. So anyway, that pretty much covers all of the tools that I currently have. I do have plans to get, I want their complete turnbuckle wrench set, and some other things that I can't think of off the top of my head, but at any rate, I hope that gives you a good idea. I know I did an unboxing video and like a first impressions video of these back when I first got them, or at least of the metric and standard sets back when I first got them, because I did a lot of research on these, and I told you guys I'd come back and do an actual review video on them once I've used them for quite a while, and so there you have it. Team EDS all the way, man. It does not get better. They're pretty much the best quality tools you can buy, and the best part is they're not even the most expensive. They're actually average priced. Most of their stuff is pretty average priced compared to a lot of the other cheaper sub-quality tools that are out there. All right, real quick, I'm just editing this into the video because I forgot to mention this. But I wanted to show you guys this because I thought this was, I forgot to mention a couple of key features about their metric and their standard hex drivers. The first thing I wanted to mention was, I mentioned earlier that the metrics are indicated by the silver tops, and the standards have a red anodized tops on them, but on top of that, the tops swivel. So it's really nice for when you got them in the palm of your hand. They do swivel around, and then not only do they have the swiveling tops, but if you notice, you can quickly identify what size the wrench is by the number of rings that the wrench has. So no matter how it's laying on your desk, you can quickly identify these, because the 3 millimeter one has 3 big rings, 2.5 millimeter has two big rings and a half ring for 2.5. The 2 millimeter has 2 big rings, and then the 1.5 millimeter has 1 big ring and then a half a ring. So very easy to identify these when they're sitting on your bench. Now the standards have rings also. The rings, as far as I can tell, don't necessarily directly correlate to the size like these do. but they are ringed. Let's see, in fact, I got them right here. They are ringed, and so the biggest one has 5 rings, the next biggest has 4, 3, and then 2. Now, like I said, that doesn't necessarily directly tell you the exact size, and they actually have the size printed on them. Like if you can see this one right here, it actually has the size printed on it. But the only thing that I don't like, oops, I got it upside down. The only thing that I don't like about this is they use the decimal. 0.063 inches does not mean anything to me. I don't know what size that actually is. I want to say it's the 1/16th wrench. Yeah, I don't know decimal sizes in direct relation to the fractions. So that kind of irks me. I wish it actually said 1/16th on it, and I wish, you know, the other ones said what whatever fraction they are. But it's not a huge deal though, because like I said, the rings, you know, help you indicate what size wrench you're dealing with. So most of the time, it's pretty easy for me to pick out which wrench that I need, even though I can't look at it and say, oh, if I need the 1/16th, there it is. But I just wanted to point those two things out to you guys. So back to the rest of the video. So anyway, I hope that helps you guys out. I know I've gone on long enough for this video, so I'm going to call it a wrap here. If you have any comments or questions, or you want to see RC pics, you can go to my Facebook page at www.facebook.com/GrayWolfStudios74. Or if you have, you can also post up your questions and comments there, or you can hit me up via email at GrayWolfStudios74@gmail.com. Peace.